Welcome to the David German T.A.I video series. I'm your host, Joseph Rebelo, and of course we're here today with Master David German, the founder of the T.A.I martial arts system. Again, Transition Action Incorporated. Mr. German, it's a pleasure seeing you, sir.
My pleasure. How are you doing?
Doing very well, sir.
Great.
Today we're talking about, of course, the new videotape series. And our first question regarding your career is, how did you begin in the martial arts?
About 1954, give or take a year or two. Next year will be my 49th year, so I've sort of lost track. I started in West Covina, California. I studied in the children's jiu-jitsu program under a gentleman named Kimura. From there we went into the various arts after that. But I actually made my first black belt before I was in high school, so that was a summer vacation before high school.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now that was at the now defunct Japanese Community Center in West Covina.
Yes, it's now Attractive Homes. It's been Attractive Home for a lot of years.
Wow. Now, after you had gotten your black belt in the children's jiu-jitsu format under Kimura Sensei, who was the next instructor that you had trained with?
Well, you know, I really look back on that question because I really don't quite remember because I've only had them a couple of months. But I remember we had to wear something like fatigue, you know, the Army uniforms when we practiced judo throws. But anyway, my next instructor was Al Thomas at the Budokan in. Well, it ended up in El Monte, California, but he moved his location so many times it was hard to follow him around. It was on Gower Street. It was at the old haunted house in Hollywood, California, which was neat. And in there, we had guys full-grown men, obviously, like Gene LaBelle and Hayward Nishioka, and I'm talking about almost all these famous martial arts here. About today, we're in that studio coming and going periodically because of the location that Al Thomas had. But I made my first black belt under, actually one of my black belts in Budo Jiu-Jitsu under Al Thomas. I'm actually his first Budo Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Unfortunately, the gentleman died and I did inherit his association. So,
now, going back to those days, you were in a very, I should say, not prestigious position so much, but a very fortunate position in the fact that you would help clean up the studio and run a lot of, and you've got some interesting stories about that. You were telling me in the course of that while we were producing these videos that originally at one point that you used to open up the studio if Sensei Thomas wasn't there on time, that you actually used to climb in through the bathroom window to open up the studio.
Yes, it's sort of neat, you know. It's funny. I look back those days. I wish I could relive them because they were one of my best parts of life. I asked Mr. Thomas one time how much it would cost for me to study with him, and he gave me a price that was quite high. It's high now, but it was high then. But anyway, to make a long story short, I started after I paid him, like a lot of instructors do. Sometimes they don't show up for the lessons on time, so I was standing out in front, and then other students would gather out in front. So one day after my lesson package was going, I was in the restroom, and I noticed there was a funny lock on the window, so I unlocked it. So this is funny. This is ridiculous. Thank God he never caught me, but I finally did get going in it fairly well. I opened the window, and I kept it unlocked. So I'd get there, and of course Al wouldn't show up, and all the judo guys and jiu-jitsu guys and all the other people wouldn't show up on time, so I climbed in through the window, and the key, the door had one of those locks on the inside. It's like a glass doors. I opened it up, and students would walk in, and since I've already had some experience and fairly good with people, and my martial arts was coming along fairly well, I started training them and started my own little class in the morning until Al Thomas got there. And when he finally got there, you know, he was apologetic, and pretty soon it was like I was the instructor in the morning. So I started teaching Kenpo classes in the morning, actually. Kenpo-based ideas, you know, whatever I could to get by at that age. And finally, 1958, April 25th is when I turned professional. I got my first paycheck. And from there, we just started on.
Now, again, you mentioned about the Kenpo ideas. You were also at that time training with Ed Parker as well.
You know, I'm trying to think. That's so far back. I started training with Mr. Parker when he was not quite 29, as I recollect, because I couldn't drive a car. But down the street from Mr. Parker's house was Mr. Parker's studio was a front-end lineman shop called Bell and Vaughn. I remember that name because I think it's still there. I was just by there last week, showing one of my students that's in the video with me locations and what the Parker studio looked like. Well, my father had a garage in San Gabriel, California, where he would send cars up there periodically to get the front end line.
Sure.
And so I would ride along with my mom, and I would take the $5 private lesson that Mr. Parker had, and I was up there quite often, almost daily sometimes. So from there, I would transfer that knowledge back into the jiu-jitsu that Al Thomas had at his studio the next morning. You could see how it would all sort of blend together. Al Thomas would have me do a judo throw, and I would do a Kenpo technique and go into a judo throw, take the guy down and do something, and then grab a newaza like you're grappling him on the ground in a hold. And Al said, wow, that's really neat. Let's see that again. Well, then I would be at Mr. Parker's studio, and he would teach me a technique that had no name at that time. We really only had a few names. So I would, flash off some real neat technique on one of the students. Or like Brian Adams was there at that time, and he was one of the very first black belts. On him, and then I would trip and take him down, and Brian would say, and Mr. Parker would say, wow, what's that? Well, that's a Kenpo technique where I pin him on the ground. And then I needed a method to learn it, to memorize these patterns, so that's where I am in today.
Now, again, I mean, you were very fortunate. I mean, again, we had talked about the Budokan.
Well, let me tell you about the fortunate thing. The Budokan, after it moved around several places, Al Thomas wasn't the world's greatest businessman, although I think he was one of the greatest grapplers as far as teaching I've ever seen. But we would have the Japanese teams from Japan come over, and they would live there. It's a big school. And while they were traveling around demonstrating the different arts, the Aikido, the Jiu-Jitsu, the Judo, and so forth, to the different colleges. So I always got to be the one that got beat up. So I'd stick my arm out there about 100 miles an hour, and some guy would throw me in the air, and another guy would jump on me, the whole thing. So I never had a chance to be isolated into one art. The Judo guys would say they could whip the Jiu-Jitsu guys. The Jiu-Jitsu guys could whip the grapplers, and the grapplers could whip the boxers, and oh my God, I've heard it all. And so you listen to this propaganda from each individual master at that time, and pretty soon you got an overall feeling of how the martial arts is all one, but yet all separate, and it's just how you look at it.
Well, I think that's one of the beauties of what you've done in relationship to what T.A.I is.
Yeah.
And T.A.I truly is what is referred to in your terminology as the transitional actions that you incorporate from one system to another. For a moment, let's go back in time a little bit. We were talking about, and the matter of fact, that's what I was just going to mention about you being the uke for so many of the different teams, and seeing judo and jiu-jitsu and karate and yawara and naginata and all these different weaponry arts and all these different arts that you were exposed to.
So many.
Let's go back to the Ed Parker studio for a minute. In the days, like you said, there were very few techniques. We talked about 5 count or 5 swords, I believe.
In this conversation, we're going to contradict your ideas back and forth a minute. When we say there were very few techniques, there were very few techniques that were actually named. The techniques, I've seen the histories that Mr. Al Tracy put out, and I've seen every conceivable idea on how Kenpo evolved and was from Hawaii, from here, from there, and all over the doggone place. But in reality, the Kenpo karate today is from Ed Parker in Pasadena, California. It's that doggone simple. What we do is at that time we would all line up, we would shoot a punch, a guy would rattle off a technique, and if it looked good and it had the proper checks in there and it had all this, then finally we would end up naming it. Ed never really wanted to canonize anything because he was in his creative stage of his martial arts. At a young age I could tell that because I was in my creative stage. Right. If you're an artist, I'm an artist. You're an artist. Mr. Parker was an artist, so we didn't want to canonize and say this is an absolute. He only had to make his absolutes when they, really basically pushed him into saying this is how it's done from the insides on all the way up. But the techniques were designed in technique line. They were designed by people like myself and a lot of the older instructors out today. Most of them are, I'm 61, so most of them are my age and a little bit older, and some of them can still move well, and some have drifted apart. But I think at that time we had the Dance of Death, we had Thundering Hammer, we had Backbreaker, we had Snapping the Twig. That was our most exotic name we had at the time. Thundering Hammer, Leap of Death, and really, that's about all the names we had. The rest were just wild techniques that were being developed. Although we were all doing the same techniques and the same concept, the same idea, we had to radically change them a little bit to make them move. And then we got into 2-man drills, 3-man drills, and you know that was a good time of martial arts because you could be self-expressive. And when Ed would see something, wow, stop that! What's that? Let's see that again. Bang. Then he would take that off and teach it to another student, correct them, and then continue on from there. So, in my opinion, matter of fact, it's not opinion; it's a doggone fact. Kenpo karate, the Ed Parker system, was developed in Pasadena, California. Was choreographed there. A lot of it became there. Now I know a lot of you guys out in the Kenpo Association. Some of you old guys realize that what I'm stating is fact, but then it had to be organized and put into set patterns and programs and forms and katas, whatever you want to call those doggone sets of movements together. You know, for business reasons, to franchise out and eventually. I had the first that I know of because I think Joe, you have my brochures. From 1962, the pamphlets,
which you'll be seeing. We'll be showing you those.
Yeah, you know one thing that bothers me on the pamphlet. I noticed in one of the Kenpo history videos that Al Tracy put out, that pamphlet they say wasn't developed, as I recollect, until 1964. Well, excuse me, but mine is 1962. Too. I could be wrong, but that's when I did open the studio, because I remember Ed Parker and coming to the studio and looking at it, because I was I'm not as egotistical then as I am now, but my name is David German and Ed Parker. But on my studios that I had them all as Ed Parker's Kenpo Karate and so forth. So I claim we had the first franchise. We probably at that time didn't even know how to spell the word franchise, but regardless, we had it together down there. Well, we had a fallout a little bit later, but it was a martial arts fallout. It was not a personal friend fallout.
And that really was one of the impetuses for the creation of T.A.I.
Correct.
Now, again, I feel it's very important we mention about this, because a lot of times you'll watch these videotapes and you'll sit there and say, well, doesn't he know the name of this technique and doesn't he know the name of that technique? The key ingredient you have to understand is that in T.A.I., from the original Kenpo karate, and that's what the term is, the original Kenpo karate, long before the term American Kenpo was ever used, Mr. German was studying Ed Parker's Kenpo karate. He was studying Kenpo karate.
Let me interject about those names. When you see me ask, what's this technique? It's to get the student in my videos a chance to talk, a chance to express themselves. Because the first videos, they're all frozen up. They don't know what to do. They're afraid they're going to make a mistake. They're afraid they're going to make me mad. They're afraid they're going to look goofy or stupid or whatever. So I might ask Jeff or Frank or Ralph Anderson or some of the guys, what's the name of this technique? Well, right away it gets them talking, because I know they know the name of the doggone technique. And I say, well, how do you do this? And I might make a joke, my gosh, you're going to hit him between the eyes with an axe or something like that. Then I elaborate from there. And then I try to put them at ease by saying, could we add this and could we add that? That's the only reason for it, to make them feel a little bit more comfortable on the stage or on the video.
Excellent.
I can tell you all the names, by the way.
Well, I mean, the beauty of you've not only worked on Mr. Parker's curriculum, but also because of your past association with the Tracys, you've also worked with them, and also other individuals have in the T.A.I. organization. The beauty of T.A.I., which we're going to talk about right now, is the fact that you've given your students the opportunity to either take a segment of what T.A.I. is or the entire aspect, and you give an analogy in relationship to track and field events.
Yeah, I believe that.
In relationship, well, first of all, what was the impetus for T.A.I.? How did you create T.A.I. or T.A.I. Karate, as it was originally called?
I created T.A.I., and I use the word karate generically, of course. We're really a kung fu school. I've got a tremendous amount of Chinese martial arts background. Really, what I use is the Ed Parker system of that form of martial arts as my basics. From there I can go into throws, holds, come along, because as the Ed Parker art, it's very fluid, it's very sensible, it's very fast. He was a genius with his movements and he put it together very well. Now refer to the thing like track. Example, you as someone watching me on the video right now, you're 200 pounds, 5 foot tall, or 6 foot 8, 100 pounds. If I was a track coach and you said, I want to take a track, or I want to be a karate master, well, I'm not going to take a guy that's small and real short and that's way overweight and make a hurdler out of him. Doesn't mean he can't get over the hurdles and learn how to do it. It means that he's not going to do it very well, but he would make one heck of a shot putter, wouldn't he? Same with the martial arts. There's a lot of techniques a lot of you guys can learn that are really great. You look fast and crisp and stuff like that. In judo and in jiu-jitsu and yawara and taido and karate and all kinds of beat-em-up arts, I'm going to find a set pattern that's going to make you good and it's going to make you look, wow, that guy's really great. That pattern might be a combination of movements that I learned. That doesn't mean that you cannot still learn the same curriculum. If you're under a Kenpo karate instructor, you do it his way. My job as a T.A.I. instructor is to interject my thoughts into that technique to set you free, to let you say, hey, I can do this a different way. But for your testing in your studio, you do it a certain way, and under me, you do it a little bit different. Transition Acts Incorporated. I remember in Las Vegas, I had 10,000 people a day watch me demo. Not because they came to see me, because I was in a mall and there was a theater next door, so I'm in the front window, really trying to look good and doing whatever I can to, make a living with this martial arts program. Sure. Kicking and creating and finding all kinds of ways to demonstrate on someone. So I would pull off a technique. Let's say I would go into a 5 count, 5 swords, dagger set. There's all kinds of names for this one here. And then right from the solar plex punch, I'd go to a judo throw. The guy would go flying through the air. I hit him on the ground. I grab him in a hold. I grab him in a wrist lock, step off, and maybe go into thundering hammer. Well, obviously that's overkill and stupid if you're going to use it for self-defense, because no one's going to stand there that long and let you get beat up. But what it did was allow me to express myself in technique form, like a technique line. And what's really neat is then I would go over and I would say, Jeff or Frank, I said, well, let's do this technique. He goes, what's this technique? Well, it's where you beat them up with this strike. Then from here you go to a judo throw. And then from here, you go through the whole rigmarole. And I say, okay, let's put the transition. We'll create an action, put them in, then we'll incorporate into this. Thus the word T.A.I. being born. T.A.I. means transition, actions, incorporated. It's a method, and only a method for me personally, to memorize the different martial arts in a set pattern. It's like singing a song, It's hard to start in the middle, but if it rhymes, you can sort of get a little bit better. I tried to make the martial arts look exactly like they belong together. And in my opinion, in one time maybe they were. The other reason is, oh my gosh, you can have this big pie of martial arts and you can segment it out. One might be blocks with checks, might be one with throws, might be one with weapons, whatever. Together, to me, they're T.A.I., and I can memorize a pattern to, just like memorizing songs. You can memorize a lot of songs, but it's hard to. And then I create songs. I create songs with the martial arts. One of my favorite is an art called China, to grab, seize, hold, control, and subdue. Well, it's neat because you have to do it right, or it's not China. It's some type of jiu-jitsu or aikido or something like that. So I might grab a technique out of the Ed Parker system, and when I'm teaching a seminar, I might look around, see the different belt colors they have, grab a green belt or a brown belt or a yellow belt or whatever, and I say, what's your favorite technique? And they'll tell me, and I think last night we did the Cross of Destruction. Or
Cross of Destruction.
That's a neat name. Somebody's staying up all night thinking of these names. That's good. But I think in our system we have a different name, and in Frank's system he has a different name, and you can go on and on and on. But anyway, we use Cross of Destruction as our base technique. From there we can go into all kinds of joint locks that they can at least go home with the knowledge on how to live and put these things together.
There we go. Well, again, we're talking here today about your exciting new video series, and this is really the first video series, well, I shouldn't say, with deference to Panther Productions. Originally, you did a series of 4 videotapes, The Art of China, as it was spelled at that point, the Kenpo Jiu-Jitsu Connection, combat ground fighting, and choking strangulation techniques.
Yeah.
And now we're going in with this new videotape series, which really is going to expound upon T.A.I. breaking down the various aspects of Thai, whether it be the Kenpo Jiu-Jitsu connection, elaborating upon that. You're doing a complete set of tapes on the Chin Na form, which again has over 365 movements, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you know, when I was asked to choreograph my concept of what Chin Na was, when I was looking at the way the forms are done and things like that, they're going all over the room. And I said, well, now they got to go on video. So I decided to go to just 4 corners of the room. And then in Chin Na, there's 365 techniques, depending on how you count them. I count them to purposely make it come up to 365. I could have went to 400, I could have went to 280, whatever, but they do come to 365. Then I noticed in the Chin Na, they had 52 hand sets. Okay, so let's tie this in with the number system. We got 365 days in a year, so we have 365 techniques. But every 7th technique is a trapping hand or some type of a Kenpo idea or something where you're hitting with someone with your hands, your feet, and your elbows. And they're every 7th technique. So if you take all the 7th techniques out of 365, you have 52 hand sets. If the 52 hand sets are linked together, you have a thing what we call Tren Fa, Chuan Fa, or Tren Fa. Fist formula, that's all it means. It's a method for me to take the techniques and put them together. Now I'll talk with the idea. Let's say in theology, you have to learn Greek and Hebrew to understand certain ideas. Well, you have Chin Na. Chin Na is our theology of our martial arts. It's the Arabic and the Greek, I guess you could say, to show where the technique came from. Now in Chin Na, you know they're going to work because the guy's jumping around screaming. I mean, with control. You know, no theory on it. There's no ideas. Like I know in the Parker system, they have something where they're bending your wrist this way and you can elbow up and so forth. You're not going to do that in Chin Na. I guarantee it. You can do that, you're going to lose an arm. It's going to come off and look weird.
Now, again, you have presently we have a series. Again, as this is being taped, the first 5 tapes of the series have been produced, and you've also, besides the Chin Na series, you've also elaborated on the Kenpo Jiu-Jitsu. Matter of fact, before we do that, let's get back into the Chin Na. Assisting you is one of your black belt instructors under you, Mr. Jeff Faust, out of California. He's from the LA area, and he's part of what's known as your protege program.
Yes, he is.
And again, we have a group of individuals that you have selected who have contacted you regarding becoming part of the future of Thai in its different incarnations. And they are to be featured in these different videotapes that are going to be made available. If obviously you have in your possession one of these videotapes and are seeing this interview as we do this. And again, the beauty of this is the fact that, as Jeff did, and also Mr. Frank Beal from North Augusta, South Carolina, these are 2 individuals who took it upon themselves to contact you and want to become part of this exciting program, to be part of the Thai legacy, to literally have the, to be known literally worldwide as one of your proteges, an individual who has chosen to be part of the Thai legacy.
Yeah. It's interesting to, let's go into the Chin Na tape. When the first one you see, you're going to see myself standing there, and you're going to see one of our instructors named Jeff Faust. And as you watch the first tape and then the second, you'll see that eventually his personality is going to change. He's going to get more sure of himself. He's going to be faster and crisper. And as we get into it, 6th and 7th tape, we'll start discussing the martial arts back and forth. We become equal. At first, I'm the instructor saying do this and do that type of thing. But Jeff will be seen literally all over the world. And of course, I'm going to stand there and pretend like I know what I'm doing, you know, things like that. But he's going to be forced into the public. That's what it is. He's fairly mild, non-egotistical. I like showing off myself. And I would like to see 8 or 10 or 15 tapes from now and see what Jeff beats up out there. He probably beat me up.
Well, you know, and we talk also, the other person involved in the project is Mr. Frank Beal. And I know Frank from my many online excursions as Kenpojoe. But we talked about Frank's legacy, and that's in relationship to another person that's very important in the history of Thai, Virgil Kimmy.
Correct. Virgil Kimmy's been with me well over 30 years. He died recently. Frank is one of his black belts as well as one of mine. He's excellent. He's focused. His movements are crisp, straight. From what I know of, and I know him for a long time, moralistic. He's a good, clean athlete. When we say good, clean athlete, he has the ability to be a decathlete, where he can learn all the different arts that I've taught. Now, once he gets into the Thai arts and completely saturates himself, he'll become outstandingly well. So in his particular system, he's from a different type of movement. I'm from more of a bang, bang, bang movement. Frank's more of a block, punch. Now when he starts interjecting the Kenpo in there and his ideas and his requirements, and we start introducing the groundwork, because he's an excellent groundwork person, and get his studios built up big, I would imagine he'll probably go into a nice chain, I think, because he seems like he has the business sets to pull it off and the morality to make the built fairly well. You know, my life, you know, according to you and our website and Christy and some of the other people and some of the ones I talked to, we have what, 3,000 to 5,000 black belts?
Easily.
Throughout the time. I've only turned out probably 18 or 19 myself, so somebody's out there, you know, really teaching hard and crisp. My life has been on the stage in Las Vegas and doing seminars and some types of videos and things like that, so I never really got out there to find out about how, you know, the business section of it works. Next October, it's October now. What year is this?
We're in October. As we're filming this today, we're at the end of October, just before Halloween, as a matter of fact, 2002.
Tomorrow's Halloween.
Yeah.
Wow, my secretary's going to be out witching around, I guess. She got her own broom. No, she's a good girl. She's a China teacher out of Scottsdale, actually.
Excellent. Now, again, we are starting up this series. Eventually, we're looking at a series of, at least 40 tapes covering the aspects of, again, Kenpo karate, Budo Jiu-Jitsu.
Let me change that. We're going to run 52 tapes on China alone. Each tape has 6 techniques and a beat 'em up technique. We do have a teaching series on this also, so you can actually make belts. China really doesn't have any belts, so we have to choreograph the belt system. We'll go a little bit along the Kenpo line. This way, as you learn the segments of China out of the 52 tapes, that will eventually be out. Right now we got 5, 6, or 7 or something like that. You can actually film yourself, send them in, we critique it, and give you an idea as how to fix it. We're starting off with techniques that I consider fairly simple, but then I've been in it so long, I don't know what simple is anymore on some of these techniques. And you can actually incorporate it into your Kenpo, your Taekwondo, your Tang Sudo, or JKD or whatever, or the grappling on the ground, or whatever you wish to incorporate it in, and you can have degrees in Shina. Since we have 52 sets, it doesn't mean you have to have set 1, set 2, all the way and up there. You can really start anywhere in there you wish, but usually you'd want to start at number 1 and continue on up there. And we do have an excellent teaching program. It's a video course. And we have it on several of our arts.
And that really is the beauty about what the Thai videotape series is all about, that whether you are a person already involved in Thai in one of the many incarnations, whether you're doing Thai karate, Thai kung fu, Thai kenpo, Budo jiu-jitsu, Chin Na, Niwaza, Taido, irregardless of the orientation, or one of the many subsystems of Thai. Again, you yourself as a martial artist might not even be aware that you're related in Thai in some way, and look on davidgermanthai.com and say, wow, there's one of my instructors listed under Thai. I never knew we were listed under Thai. But there are so many people that are involved in the legacy of Mr. German and the legacy of Thai, that you can take a section of the vast syllabus, as we were talking earlier, that's available under the Thai banner, or you can study the entire curriculum and try to grasp as much as you can from the knowledge of this great man.
Yeah.
And it is a rare opportunity and the chance of a lifetime for those individuals out there who are watching these videotapes who want to be part of that future in relationship to Thai. Perhaps you yourself wish to be one of the proteges learning a different aspect or being demonstrated upon, as we refer to this week has been the human piñata in the videotapes. But more importantly, also learning directly from Mr. German and getting more insights into your martial arts training, and really being able to, and as these two gentlemen have been the last few days, been able to spend a lot of time one-on-one with you, working and watching you teach and instruct and do seminars and work with them, and in a one-on-one atmosphere for several days. So it's a rare opportunity.